So as we're closing out the week here today, I did have a couple of stories that I couldn't quite fit into Newswave this morning, and a lot of that has to do with me being gone for a couple of days this week, and there's being a lot of stuff to cover. So I wanted to go over a couple of stories here, because one is, it just sounds downright dramatic, because Nintendo not messing around to the point where the FBI get involved, but it does beg the question of how much of an effect will this really have for Nintendo going forward here. And then the other one has to do with game key cards and Nintendo themselves asking the audience how exactly they feel about it, and it's something that keeps coming up naturally online, but also most recently from investors, which does make me wonder if Nintendo themselves are becoming a bit more aware of sort of just the views from the general audience on these game key cards. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So let's talk first about this FBI situation with Nintendo, because we know Nintendo loves the courtroom. Like, they love to, of course, press different sites that are distributing ROMs or using their intellectual properties or likenesses or characters, or people who are modding and hacking the system, creating emulators. I mean, there's just a laundry list of things that Nintendo loves to go after. Fan projects, to me, are probably the most annoying, because there are some really cool ideas out there that just get completely destroyed by Nintendo. But I will say, when you hear about, say, a big ROM website going down, I don't think it really surprises a lot of people, but it certainly annoys people to the level of inconveniencing them, since there are many, I'm sure, that have been downloading games just outright, which, I mean, the MIG switch at this point proves that, based on where a lot of these files are coming from. However, I will say, even I was a little surprised to see just how far this has gone. So this, we can see, this is posted over on torrentfreak.com, which I'll have this link down below, as they say that the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, has seized the domain names of several gaming-related pirate sites, including nsw2u.com, which has been Nintendo's nemesis for years, and indeed it has. So whenever a game would leak out early, one of the easiest ways to verify that it did legitimately leak to the point where it's just being distributed is just to see if it's on this website. Now, I will say, sometimes fake games we post on this website, but they would be pulled pretty quickly, okay? So it was somewhat curated in general. And when you think about people going out and looking for ROM websites or anything, you start to then also consider the idea of there being crazy amounts of pop-ups and potential malware. That is always a safety concern when you go out looking for these sorts of things. Even when you're going out downloading torrents and other packs of ROMs, there's always that thought in the back of your mind. It's like, am I about to unzip this thing and my computer's going to crash or go crazy and start messing up? That's always a thing, clearly. But NSW2U was used quite a bit. It was very, very popular. So to me, it's not shocking that it ended up becoming a target. Now, the thing with that, however, is when you go to the site, it has this website has been seized by the FBI, basically, is what it says here. And they have a better screenshot you can kind of see here. Yeah, it was kind of just a surprising thing. It just kind of popped up when people naturally were going to the website. And the thing with this site is, so do you remember when the different emulators, think of like Yuzu or Ryujinx, started to get destroyed by Nintendo through lawsuits? And one of the things that they cited was the idea that something like Tears of the Kingdom, which was a notoriously big leak around the Switch because it got out like a week and a half early, and people were downloading it and playing it on emulators or even just on Switch systems that had been hacked. And they were pointing to even some of these emulators supporting this, being able to at least have updates to then support this ROM file, it being discussed in their Discord, where Nintendo was laying in wait to see if they could screenshot people talking about it. Well, this website was a place that actually distributes ROMs that leak out early. Again, it was a way to find out if it was being distributed widely. So you take that into account, and then also the fact that Nintendo's games, their ROMs, are showing up on the site. I'm actually shocked that it lasted as long as it did, just because the more popular it becomes, the bigger target that gets placed on its back and the bigger magnifying glass that goes over it. However, FBI getting involved was a bit surprising, but then Torrent Freak did a very good job with some of the research and legwork here, noticing that it has been brought up before by the U.S. Trade Representative at the beginning of the year with other three other targeted domains receiving a mention as related sites. Now, this report is mostly brought up as like counterfeit concerns. You can see here a review of notorious markets for counterfeiting and piracy. And they have this just published. You can just go check it out on their website. And this was issued January 8th, 2025. And it's mostly for what I can tell, just the year of 2024. And it's here in just like a PDF. So you can scroll through it. But there is NSW2U right here on page 28, which they did actually a pretty good job here just grabbing the shot for that, and said that NSW2U is a popular website to access links to unauthorized copyrighted video game content, including pre-release content. The site generates income through advertising and links to other gaming platforms. The site utilizes multiple alternative domains to evade enforcement actions and does not respond to takedown notices. NSW2U is a subject of enforcement activity in France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, and the United Kingdom. So they do rely, the USTR, as they say, on rights holders for input. In this case, hey, the ESA, or Entertainment Software Association, explicitly connected these domains for them. So kind of connected the dots, like, hey, these would be the issues here. And they mention links to game2u.com, PS4pkg.com, and bigingame.com. All right. So, I mean, look, NSW, you are naming it like as the Nintendo Switch, like initials, to you. Yeah, again, that's probably going to pop up on their radar. And they also mentioned that names were seized like mgnetu.com, nstu.com, and nswdl.com. So again, to me, none of this is shocking to see. As we know, Nintendo is very aggressive in general, and this is certainly something they would have pressed on. But it also goes to show that, yeah, Nintendo isn't messing around with this. And even the FBI apparently getting involved, which I will say, people look at this and go, man, the FBI, really? This is what they're doing? I mean, this is part of what they're doing, sure, but in the industry as large as gaming, and the fact that they are looking into things like piracy and copyrighted materials is just part of it. But the thing, I look at this and I go, sure, NSW2U is now down, but what's going to happen? Another site's going to pop up and most likely do the same thing. And then it'll happen again and again and again. So that's the biggest thing Nintendo will always run into, is if their system is easily able to be emulated or easily hacked, and then you can start dumping the cartridges, it's going to be very difficult to stop distribution in general with the internet, because that's just kind of the way the internet works. It never forgets, and it continues to post and upload and make these things available. So really it comes down to Nintendo on their end, making their system more secure and, you know, not get hacked by a paperclip for the first 20 to 30 million systems, because then you end up what you did here with the Switch. Now, to their credit, they were still able to sell a stupid amount of systems, and it might not be in the best-selling system, and a ton of software, more than 1 billion pieces. So it didn't necessarily affect them in the long run, but I'm sure Nintendo, even after all of that, wonders what could have been. Could have 1.5 billion pieces of software, 180 million systems. You know, that's always going to be something that they're going to think as businesses. Always think about what's next, what could be bigger and better in general there. Now, the other part of this we can actually jump over to has to do with game key cards. All right, and this is a hot button topic naturally online, because it's really annoying to buy a game key card, a cartridge, only to realize not only is it not on the cartridge, the game, but it's going to still take up a bunch of your internal storage on the Switch too. In fact, I think that's the most egregious part of all of this, is the fact that you still have to download and take up 40, 50, 60, 70 gigabytes of internal storage on the Switch 2. That is, it's not exactly plentiful. Even though it's 256 gigabytes, NBA 2K this year is 75 gigabytes. Now you can realize, wow, I could fit 4 games maybe total on this thing before, digitally or through game keycard, before I have to upgrade the storage. Now, it appears that Nintendo is sending out surveys around this, which, I mean, yes, they have to do their market research and figure out what people's opinions are on these game key cards, because that is really their solution right now for third parties. And third parties, while they may like it, because that's kind of been the word going around, it's like, yes, it's kind of a solution that they do like, and not all of them, as we've heard from CD Projekt, they still very much believe in the idea that everything should be on the cartridge. And I mean, their actions spoke loudly there, where Cyberpunk is all in the cartridge. So, I mean, hats off to them. They went for it. Even though I know it's a $70 game, they still decided, you know what, we're going to make that happen, and we'll let the market determine if that's what people prefer. So far, Cyberpunk has done well for them, it seems, on the Switch too. But some of the questions here, as screenshots, they say circulating, is over on the Nerd Stash. Screenshots circulating on the Japanese forum 5-channel reveal that Nintendo might be conducting a limited survey regarding game keycards. These are the screenshots that were posted by an anonymous user, and we can see they attempted to translate some of the stuff from the screenshot here. Did you know that some Switch 2 physical software comes in a cartridge called keycard? That, to me, is one of the biggest questions that I still need to figure out if that is a thing. Do people out there even understand what's happening with game keycards? Because I think many people in the mainstream will learn when it inconveniences them. So when they buy a game keycard, thinking they can then go on a trip with it without having to pre-plan, as in pre-download the game, because they believe it's on the cartridge, and they find out on the plane that they can't play that new game, that Street Fighter 6 or whatever they just bought. They have to wait till they land and then find a good internet connection because it's like a 60 gigabyte download or something like that. Do you know about any of the game or the keycard features? Same thing there. If a game you want to buy comes in both keycard and download versions, which would you prefer? That is a very interesting question right there. Would you prefer to go digital over game keycard? Because I do think there are many people, when they learn, if they don't know what it is, when they learn what game keycards are, they'll just say, well, what's the point? I might as well download it, and then convenience is what takes over here because I don't have to change out the game keycard at all. All right. People don't necessarily think about, oh, I can trade this in down the road. Usually they just think about, can I get the game now? Like, they're just thinking about getting the game, not like, oh, I'm going to offload it eventually, okay? When you realize that the game you owned was a key card, a lot of questions for people about, do you even know what this thing is that we're presenting to you right now? And how do you feel about playing a game using key card? To me, look, if the game's downloaded and you have the card in there, you're probably not even thinking about it then. You're like, oh, yeah, it plays the same, I guess. But to me, it's the process, it's the friction of, am I in a correct setting for a system that is designed to be on the go as a portable device, and trying to fit into a lifestyle of maybe you're on the go and you decide to pick up a game while you're out on a trip and you're not necessarily able to play it there. So that, to me, is one of the big things right now, are just people figuring it out on their own. And I'm not talking about you maybe watching this video. You're plugged in, you're smart about this, you understand what's happening. It's going to be more so when the holidays kick in and it's gift-giving season and the parents start buying Switch 2 systems for the kids or something, and they realize, oh, okay, the game isn't on the cartridge. Well, why don't they just download it? Yeah, that'd be kind of the thought. You're downloading it anyway. Look, I'll get you a gift card for Nintendo's online store. You do your own shopping there. Don't worry about it. I mean, that'll be the question then, is game key cards continue to push people more and more towards just all digital purchase, all digital libraries. So I think we need to get through the first holiday season and let kind of the mainstream figure out game key cards for themselves just through their own, honestly, buying and life experience with them. Because otherwise they'd have to sit down and kind of wrap their heads around exactly what it is before purchase. And I hate to say it, there are a lot of people who don't necessarily do their research beforehand, especially when it's just about buying it for someone else. Are they really getting that invested in it when it's not their thing? But maybe it's for, again, the kids or even a friend or a spouse. Maybe not as much. They'll just buy it as long as it lines up with what's big at that time, that being the Switch 2, and I don't know, maybe a big third-party game that ends up being a game key card. But let me know what you guys think about all this down below, whether it's the game key card survey, is Nintendo maybe coming up with something else they can do in place of that for third parties, or the situation around NSW, 2U, and other Switch ROM sites going down and even being seized by the FBI, because it does seem like Nintendo isn't necessarily messing around here. But do you think this might be more of a wasted effort going forward, since more websites will pop up inevitably in the future? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.